File 30 of A Treatise of Human Nature by David Hume, Volume 1. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by George Yeager. Book 1, Part 3, Section 15. Rules by which to judge of causes and effects. According to the precedent doctrine, there are no objects which by the mere survey, without consulting experience, we can determine to be the causes of any other, and no objects which we can certainly determine in the same manner not to be the causes. Anything may produce anything. Creation, annihilation, motion, reason, volition, all these may arise from one another, or from any other object we can imagine. Nor will this appear strange if we compare two principles explained above, that the constant conjunction of objects determines their causation, and, in Part 1, Section 5, that properly speaking, no objects are contrary to each other but existence and non-existence. Where objects are not contrary, nothing hinders them from having that constant conjunction on which the relation...
This sounds like Aristotelian logic. It says property speaking, it must be properly speaking. No objects are contrary to each other. No object is contrary, meaning opposite of another object. I guess not. You can't say there's an elephant that is the opposite of another elephant. No objects are contrary to each other, but existence and non-existence. Either it is there or it's not there. No, but that's one of the beefs I would have with Aristotelian logic. Because not there is based on a proposition. You're not going around saying there's not a beaver, there's not a tractor, there's not a balloon, there's not an ice cream, there's not. That's not what you're concerned about, right? It isn't what you're concerned about. You're interested in is what is there. Now, when you make a proposition, then you're saying that's an elephant. That can either be, if you're lying, it's false to you, but it's true to you if you experience that elephant. If another person hears that proposition, it's true or false. If it's false, you might call it non-existence. That elephant is not existing because you're referring to something I'm not experiencing. But that's a twisting of the idea, right? It's not an elephant not existing. It's just a false proposition, right? Non-existence is stupid, right? The idea of non-existence is stupid. There's existence and that's it. There's not non-existence, right? You can't point and see there's not an elephant over there. Yeah, you can do it. But then there's an absolute enormous amount of things that is not there, right? But there's only, if you point and say that's an elephant, then that's an elephant. There's nothing else but elephant then, right? If it's the case, either it's the case or it's not the case, right? So I know I'm really digging into the understandings of these particular, but these things are much more important to me of whether or not he can experience causation or not, right? So I think his searchlight is somewhat misguided because he's using this existence and non-existence in this old school Aristotelian way, right? Without digging into that, I would much prefer that, right? Did I screw
File 31 of a...
There.
File 30 of A Treatise of Human Nature by David Hume, Volume 1.
I screwed up. I pressed the wrong button. I pushed the skip button. So please, I'll have to go like maybe 30 seconds in.
Your survey, without consulting experience, we can determine to be the causes of any other, and no objects which we can certainly determine in the same manner not to be the causes. Anything may produce anything. Creation, annihilation, motion, reason, volition, all these may arise from one another, or from any other object we can imagine. Nor will this appear strange if we compare two principles explained above, that the constant conjunction of objects determines their causation, and, in Part 1, Section 5, that properly speaking, no objects are contrary to each other, but existence and non-existence. Where objects are not contrary, nothing hinders them from having that constant conjunction on which the relation of cause and effect totally depends. Since, therefore, it is possible for all objects to become causes or effects to each other, it may be proper to fix some general rules by which we may know when they really are so. 1. The cause and effect must be contiguous in space and time. 2. The cause must be prior to the effect. 3. There must be a constant union betwixt the cause and effect. It is chiefly this quality that constitutes the relation. 4. The same cause always produces the same effect, and the same effect never arises but from the same cause. This principle we derive from experience, and is the source of most of our philosophical reasonings. For when by any clear experiment we have discovered the causes or effects of any phenomenon, we immediately extend our observation to every phenomenon of the same kind, without waiting for that constant repetition from which the first idea of this relation is derived. 5. There is another principle which hangs upon this, that is, that where several different objects produce the same effect, it must be by means of some quality which we discover to be common amongst them. For as like effects imply like causes, we must always ascribe the causation to the circumstance wherein we discover the resemblance. 6. The following principle is founded on the same reason. The difference in the effects of two resembling objects must proceed from that particular in which they differ. For as like causes always produce like effects, when in any instance we find our expectation to be disappointed, we must conclude that this irregularity proceeds from some difference in the causes. 7. When any object increases or diminishes with the increase or diminution of its cause, it is to be regarded as a compounded effect, derived from the union of the several different effects which arise from the several different parts of the cause. The absence or presence of one part of the cause is here supposed to be always attended with the absence or presence of a proportionable part of the effect. This constant conjunction sufficiently proves that the one part is the cause of the other. We must, however, beware not to draw such a conclusion from a few experiments. A certain degree of heat gives pleasure. If you diminish that heat, the pleasure diminishes. But it does not follow that if you augment it beyond a certain degree, the pleasure will likewise augment, for we find that it degenerates into pain. 8. The eighth and last rule I shall take notice of is that an object which exists for any time in its full perfection without any effect is not the sole cause of that effect, but requires to be assisted by some other principle which may forward its influence and operation. For as like effects necessarily follow from like causes, and in a contiguous time and place, their separation for a moment shews that these causes are not complete ones. Here is all the
Here's all. Maybe I should finish
logic
the whole
I
chapter.
think proper to employ in my reasoning, and perhaps even this was not very necessary, but might have been supplied by the natural principles of our understanding. Our scholastic headpieces and logicians shew no such superiority above the mere vulgar in their reason and ability as to give us any inclination to imitate them in delivering a long system of rules and precepts to direct our judgment in philosophy. All the rules of this nature are very easy in their invention, but extremely difficult in their application. And even experimental philosophy, which seems the most natural and simple of any, requires the utmost stretch of human judgment. There is no phenomenon in nature but what is compounded and modified by so many different circumstances that in order to arrive at the decisive point, we must carefully separate whatever is superfluous and inquire by new experiments if every particular circumstance of the first experiment was essential to it. These new experiments are liable to a discussion of the same kind, so that the utmost constancy is required to make us persevere in our inquiry, and the utmost sagacity to choose the right way among so many that present themselves. If this be the case even in natural philosophy, how much more in moral, where there is a much greater complication of circumstances, and where those views and sentiments which are essential to any action of the mind are so implicit and obscure that they often escape our strictest attention, and are not only unaccountable in their causes, but even unknown in their existence. I am much afraid lest the small success I meet with in my inquiries will make this observation bear the air of an apology rather than of boasting. If anything can give me security in this particular, it will be the enlarging of the sphere of my experiments as much as possible, for which reason it may be proper in this place to examine the reasoning faculty of brutes as well as that of human creatures. End of file 30.
Okay, so this was one of those sweet and short and sweet chapters, right? All right. So I have within the hour I have about 45 minutes to decompose, deconstruct, challenge, agree with, and so on. This is sort of the chapter is called "Rules by Which to Judge of Causes and Effect." Nowadays, you might call it the criteria for when you're dealing with causes and effects, something like that, right? At least that's how I understand it. And he gives some indications of the rules of the game, and these might need a bit of deconstruction, right? So I'm just going to, maybe I will highlight the first one here, right? Maybe this. The cause and effect must be contiguous in space and time. Now, he has discussed somewhat space and time. I'm a little, my head is sort of kind of overloaded with philosophy doing this deconstruction here. So I'm a little lost for space and time in this sense. But to the best of my understanding, as I remember it, he doesn't say that space is purely outside, because then it would be an impression. But he doesn't say that it's inside either, as far as I remember. And his musings on time and space is kind of fluffy to me. They are not cut out as clearly as I probably would have liked, right? As far as I understood it, I might be lacking in some insights of what he's saying. But with that in mind, he also says that the causes and effects are aspects of your mind, relations you make in your mind. So if cause and effects must be contiguous in space and time, then space and time must be something outside. Otherwise, they can't be in it. They can't be contiguous in it. So in this way, he practically says, unless he is misunderstanding where he finds cause and effect, that space and time is also part of your mind. Right? They must, he says in space and time, and it's sort of space and time is sort of added to the argument somewhat, right? To make it more maybe precise. But it must be contiguous. They must be in touch with each other, right? Otherwise, there is no cause and effect. While he should be sort of then go back to Newton and say, what the hell are you doing, man? The moon and Earth are not in contact. They're not contiguous, right? But leave that alone. In space and time, and if cause and effect is a part of your mind, purely, it's not something that is an outside thing or part of your impressions, right? Then space and time must also be only part of mind only, right? Okay. It has to be contiguous, they have to touch, right? Okay. The cause must be prior to the effect. Yeah, but this is sort of a game of terms, right? If something happens, the first billiard ball hits the next billiard ball, but they're both billiard balls, right? So the first billiard ball must be the cause of the effect. Yeah, well, of course, because you're just choosing the first one. You're not pointing to the cause or the effect, because he can't do that, right? He can't do that. He can't look at the first billiard ball and say, oh, look, that must be the cause, and look at the other billiard ball and say, oh, that must be the effect, right? It's only after the fact of the goings on that he says, well, this event or string of events matched some prior event I have in my memory, right? So he is misunderstanding, in my opinion, his ability to point to causes and effects. The cause must be prior to the effect. Yeah, but that's after the fact, right? You're saying, okay, after it happened, then I understand that one was the cause and that was the effect. But I'm basing it on I'm attaching it. I'm not experiencing it, right? I'm not looking at that ball and say exactly by his own musings or philosophy here, right? I can't point to the cause. So it must be something that is after. And then I'm just adding terms as I fit. I'm calling the one cause and one effect. So this is also kind of bullshit statement, right? I'm not saying it's incorrect, but it doesn't add anything to the thing, right? This is adding labels to objects after the fact that just fits the story you already have created about causation. So you're not going to say, oh, that billiard ball have to be exchanged with it. They're in the wrong order, right? If you change them around, you will just say that the other billiard ball is now the cause, right? Okay, you could say that when you try to discuss it scientifically and so on, that if you start to call that billiard ball the cause, you must refer to that which is before that which has the effect, so to say, that the object that is associated with the effect, right? Then you can't just change it later down the road in your formulas and descriptions of what is going on, right? You have to stick to what is what, right? I would go along with that. Okay, then number 3 is there must be a constant union between the cause and the effect. It is chiefly this quality that constitutes the relation. There must be a constant union between the cause and effect. I'm not sure what he means. Because if he says it's something that must be, that is existent. So constant union. So is it constant? Do they both have to be? Does the object involved in the cause and effect situation have to be in perpetual impression mode in order to refer to be able to call it cause and effect? I would suppose he would say that, but I don't think that's what he means here. Constant union. I'm not sure what he means by union between cause and effect. It is chiefly this quality that constitutes that's the quality that constitutes the relation. I think I have to give up on that one. Okay, the fourth one is longer. 4. The same cause always produces the same effect. And the same effect never arises from the same cause. So now, yeah, he has to be careful here, right? Because if he's talking about the cause, then he's pointing to that aspect he can't point to, right? So he must be talking about these objects then, right? So if there's the same object in the same circumstance, then it will have the same cause. Then it will entail the same cause. If that's what he means, okay, I'll be able to go there, right? But he is equating attributes and qualities and situation of given objects as if this is the case, it will have this cause. I don't think you can argue that way, because it depends on how the other object that might be inflicted with the cause in order to have an effect, how that is placed, right? So if that is over here, if the billiard ball is slightly to the left, then the effect will be different, right? But it's still the same cause. The cause of they're still contiguous in space and time because they do hit each other. But if it's slightly off the direction of the first ball, it will go in a different, it will have a different effect. You could say it's the same effect. The ball is rolling on, but it is important whether or not if you want to eat, the direction of the fork and the food is important. That if you put it up here or put it in your ear, and then, it won't have the same effect, though it's the same kind of movement then, right? So, I don't know, right? Okay, this principle we derive from experience and is the source of most of our philosophical reasonings. So we derive this from experience. Okay, so experience is impressions or what? What is experience compared to his ontology, base ontology of impressions and ideas? Is experience all? No, that's impressions, right? So it can't be colors and sounds because that's a sensation. That's a positive impression. So what is experience then? Now he has this new word experience. That is not a part of his basic ontology. That is confusing. That is bad. That's bad philosophy, right? And is the source of most of our philosophical reasonings. Okay, well, he's telling me what is part of my philosophical reasonings. Shut the fuck up, man, right? Speak for yourself. The same cause always produces the same effect. But if you can't see the cause, that's the part of your mind. So if you're talking about the object, so you're saying that a banana always creates the same effect. It depends on what you're doing with the banana, right? If you're shoving up your behind, it's a different effect from when you're shoving it into your mouth, right? I don't know this right? I think it falls apart here, to be honest, right? I'm not saying he's not on some kind of right track, but it condenses into something that is misguided, in my opinion. This principle we derive from experience and is the source of most of our philosophical reasoning. For when, by any clear experiment, we have discovered the causes or effects of any phenomenon, we immediately extend our observation to every phenomenon of the same kind. We don't extend it, right? We are not saying, okay, so it's, yeah, you might say, okay, each time I eat a banana, it is sweet, yellow and sweet tasting, right? And that's why we have deductive logic and so on, right? But it's based on something in the past. It's based on my memories. It's not because we extend it that there's a reason for the cause. It's because we have a memory of prior experiences where there are specific patterns we recognize and say, I might use this for my own advantage. Last time I ate a banana, it tasted good. I felt good. I got my belly full. I could run faster afterwards. That's beneficial to me. Maybe if I do the same thing next time, right? Another time, I will have the same benefit. That's basically all there is to it, man, right? It's kind of just the foundations of deductive logic, right? For as like causes always produce like effects, when in any instance we find our expectations to be disappointed, we must conclude that this irregularity proceeds from some difference in the causes. Yeah, but disappointment has nothing to do with the cause and effect, right? You might say that, okay, you might have an idea when you eat that particular thing that it will taste good, and then you eat it and you're very disappointed about the taste. But there's still the same cause and effect. There's still a cause and effect at least, right? I mean, the subjective judgment of your taste and so on is secondary to the objects, which is that which can be objective in the cause and effect thing, right? These points are quite misguided, in my opinion. When any object increases or diminishes with the increase or diminution of its cause, it to be regarded as a compounded effect, derived from the union of the several different effects which arise from the several different parts of the cause. Oh, man. Convoluted Hume here, right? Let me take it once again. When any object increases or diminishes with the increase or diminution of its cause, it is to be regarded as a compounded effect. Compounded both in reduction and amplification, I guess, right? Derived from the union of the seven different parts which arise from the seven different parts of the cause. Okay, so there can be various aspects about an object that is responsible various parts of the cause. So if you remove the wheels of the car, there are fewer. That's actually not very much of a cause then, right? But something like that, right? There are various parts that add that gives a cause, and if you diminish any of these, it diminishes the cause. I guess I could go there. I guess I'm willing to be open to that one, right? The absence or presence of one part of the cause is supposed to be always attended with the absence or presence of a proportional part of the effect. Well, yeah. If you remove the tomatoes in your Greek salad, it's a different kind of effect at least, and a diminished effect of the Greek salad. Fine. If you remove all the parts, there's no causes that can create effects. Well, yeah. This constant conjunction sufficiently proves that the one part is the cause of the other. We must, however, beware not to draw such a conclusion from a few experiments. A certain degree of heat gives pleasure. If you diminish the heat, the pleasure diminishes. Yeah, but it does not follow that if you augment it beyond a certain degree, the pleasure will likewise augment, for we find that degenerates into pain. Yes, but he points to a very important aspect that I find to be an indicator of the weakness of his ontology, which is he lumps all kinds of impressions together, be that colors and sounds, or emotions, or feelings and desires, into a big bag of impressions, right? I think that the ontology of his needs to be separated out so he doesn't conflate various types of impressions, right? And that might also make him need to wonder whether or not some of these impressions are subordinate to some other impressions. And if that is the case, that basically eliminates his ontology. Then it points out his ontology is dysfunctional, right? And I would be actually willing to say that his ontology, he will only go so far with this ontology. And the problem is that because he lumps so many things together in each of these parts of his dichotomy, the impressions and the ideas, he ends up in some extremely convoluted argumentations about various aspects of either impressions or ideas, because there's so much lumped into it together that might also have some interdependency that he is then not discussing, right? And it is pointed to here that he's talking about pleasure as something, okay, so now I'm not getting pleasure, now it's too hot. But who cares if you have a pleasure? That's not a discussion about the effect. Oh yeah, but pleasure is also an impression. Yeah, okay, but now you're fighting one impression compared to another impression, and so on, right? And this points to the problem of his ontology, in my opinion. Okay. 8. The 8th and last rule. How does he know it's the last? He might have forgotten one, right? Or overlooked one, right? It's it's the last one he has created, but what? This youthful pretense, right? Okay. The 8th and last rule I shall take notice of is that an object which exists for any time in its full perfection without any effect is not the sole cause of that effect, but requires to be assisted by some other principle which may forward its influence and operation. For as like effects necessarily follow from the like causes, and in a contiguous time and place, their separation for a moment shews that these causes are not complete ones. Okay, this might take me some time to dig into. I'm not quite sure what he's trying to say. It might be quite simple. It's just the way it's framed or formulated that makes me sort of the hairs stand a bit, right? All right. The 8th and last rule I should make note is that an object. Okay, so he has a problem with this idea of an object. It doesn't fit into his ontology. Okay, I pointed that out before, so let's let it rest there. Which exists for any time in its full perfection. How do you know it's perfect? Right? What do you mean by perfection? I mean, am I perfect? Maybe I shouldn't mention me. But is this glass I have standing over there, is that perfect? What if I remove a little, speck of it and chip something off the glass? Is it then not perfect? Is it the Aristotelian final cause of does it work as intended or something like that? I don't know. What is perfection? I don't like perfection, right? I mean, you can approach an idea of perfection, but you can never settle on what it is, because then you would have some a priori understanding of what it's supposed to be, right? And he hasn't discussed that. So this is I don't like it, right? Full perfection without any effect is not the sole cause of that effect. But if it any time without any effect is not the sole cause of that effect, but he just says there isn't an effect, how can he talk about the sole cause of that effect that he just says it's without effect? Well, what is this? Oh, Hume, god damn it, man, right? But requires to be assisted by some other principle. But now it can be assisted by a principle. Principles can only be in my mind, and an object is something that you have out there, because it's not a part of your ontology. Brain explode, man, right? Which may forward its influence and operation. I'm lost in this one, right? For as like effects necessarily follow from like causes, why? I don't think he is. Okay, I admit that some of what he's been through in the recent parts has probably went over my head, right? But why does it necessarily follow from a like cause, like effect, but a cause and effect are different? If you shove a banana up the ass of a goat, it's a different effect from when you throw a banana into the gasoline tank of your car. I mean, isn't it? So where is that cause, right? And how do you compare a cause to an effect if they're perfectly or only made in the mind? The mind is so dynamic that it can come up with all sorts of shit, right? So why is it only one? I don't get it, right? And in a contiguous time and place. Time and space or time and place? There might be a misprint here. Their separation for a moment shows that these causes are not complete ones. I'm lost in this one. I have to admit, please, if you understand what he's trying to say here, let me know. Comment down below, please, right? And another, thanks for my new subs. Welcome to the party. We're doing Hume here, for the moment at least, right? Let me know what you think. Give me your opinion on this. Actually, on all 8 of them, if you have comments. Let's have a discussion, right? These are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't buy it. This is a mischaracterization of. He has apparently, supposedly maybe, been in so many convoluted logical leaps concerning ideas, impressions, and all sorts of things about causation that he sort of lost contact with reality, so to say, right? And then he comes with 8 sentences about the criteria for limitation, understandings of cause and effect, and they're basically just dysfunctional to some or a large degree, right? That's not boding well for the rest of the book. And if I don't think this is the last chapter, but I don't remember exactly how many more chapters there are in the book. Let me see. I have a list here from Gutenberg.org. The book, the online version. It should be linked in the description below. Yes, the last one is the reason of animals, and I guess this could be a fairly large one. Let me see. 9 minutes, so that should be probably the last one. Let me see how far I have gone in this recording. I should be able to get through that one also here, right? So I am not particularly fond of what he's done here with. Honestly, frankly, of the reason of animals, I think that is self-study. I won't go into that. I really don't. I'm not saying I don't care about animals, but I don't care about the potential philosophy of animals, right? What is it like to be a bat? I don't know. And honestly, I don't care, right? So I will step into part 32 in the next one. And after a bit of disappointment about the finalization of his causation philosophy, I will say, please share, like, and subscribe. Consider donations. Links below, and on the Discord forum, links also below. And yes, please comment whatever you like. I'm open for discussions. Let's have it. And see you in the next one.